Hello guys, my name is Claire, the Curious Scientist, and for today, aalamin natin kung totoo nga ba yung haka-hakang may kumakalat ng mga flukes sa paninda dito sa palengke malapit sa amin. These flukes are under the subclass Digenea within the phylum Platyhelminths. So, ano nga ba ang subclass Digenea? So, ang subclass Digenea is derived from the word di means two and genea means birth. They belong to the kingdom Animalia and the majority of the flukes are in this subclass. It requires at least 2 different hosts para makumpleto yung life cycle nila. And pag adults na sila yung endoparasites sa bloodstreams, digestive tracts, thus of the digestive organs ng mga host nila. In their life cycle, operculum ang tawag sa lid-like hatch and egg ng flukes, miracidium pag ciliated larvae, then sporocyst naman pag bag-like. Nagko-contain ito ng embryonic cell na nagda-develop into daughter sporocysts or radiae. Cercariae naman ang tawag sa larval stage nila where they leave their intermediate host, mostly the snails, then to come to their final host as a metacercaria. Then after that, they will be developed as an adult flukes. So tara, punta na tayo sa palengke. Sir, excuse me po, may kumakalat po kasing chismis na may fasciola hepatica po ang tinda niyo. Totoo po ba yun?
Yung ititawag ng sheep liver fluke? Sorry, yeah, that's not true. That's only common as sheep raising areas and uses humans and sheep as a definite host. Tingnan mga paninda ko, puro isda. Alag ka ba?
Hindi po.
Pwede lang mga impekto sa mga sheep at mga cattle kapag sila kumakain ng mga aquatic vegetables. Sa mga tao naman, kapag sila kumakain ng mga unclean water cress. Tanong na pa mga dati mga magtitinda ng
Sige po. Salamat po.
Fasciola hepatica is a parasite. Let's go through its first life cycle. In the first stage, it is an embryonic egg. In this stage, the egg doesn't develop an embryo. The egg has an open lid in one end called the periculum. This egg can be passed by an infected human or animal through their feces. Immature egg reach fresh water via soil and then be embryonated in water. With suitable temperature, the eggs will develop to have a larva in them. The larvae are called miracidium. 9 to 15 days later, the eggs will hatch and release miracidium. Now we enter stage 3. The larva, flat and fragile, body is covered with cilia. It has a gland that secretes enzyme for invading the intermediate host, which is the freshwater snail. Once the miracidium penetrates the snail, it will develop to the next stage, which is sporocyst. Sporocyst has a sac-like shape with a germ cell in it. On this stage, it can divide into 4 more sporocysts or radia. Sporocyst has no mouth and gut but can absorb nutrients to its body wall. As time passes by, the radia leaves the sporocyst and move freely inside the host. On this stage, it has a mouth and gut used for absorbing nutrients. It can also reproduce asexually to form more radia or sericea. The next stage is sericea. The free-swimming sericea leaves the radia through its buzzpore. It leaves the intermediate host to infect a secondary intermediate host like a freshwater plant. Inside the secondary intermediate host, the sericea removes its tail and enters the next stage, the metacericea. While being in the secondary intermediate host, they can be ingested by a human or a cattle. After ingestion by the host, the metacericea lives in the duodenum, then moves through the intestine walls to the liver. Then develop in the last stage, which is the adult worm. The adult worm has a leaf-like shape with a size of about 13 millimeters in width and 20 to 30 in length. It is motile and can absorb nutrients to the mouth. It is now reproducing sexually inside the host and produce eggs to pass on its complicated life cycle.
Hello po, Miss. Miss, matanong ko lang po if totoo po bang may Clonorchis sinensis ang paninda nyo?
Chinese liver flukes? Excuse me, miss, walang Chinese liver flukes sa mga paninda ko ah. For your information, miss, may impact pa lamang ito if makakakain ka ng raw or uncooked foods that has fish. Tapos yung fish na yun is, meron siyang metacercary or ang late larvae nito. At yung late larvae na yun ay madidevelop sa katawan mo. So the Clonorchis sinensis, or also called as the Chinese liver fluke, is a liver fluke that belongs to the class Trematoda and under the phylum Platyhelminths. So it has two intermediate hosts, which is the first, the freshwater snail, the second one, the fish, then one definite host, which is the human. So when a human will eat a raw or uncooked food which has a fish in it and has a metacersae in it, the human might have a cirrhosis in his liver. Miss, kung gusto mo talaga malaman kung saan pinagmumula ng mga sakit dito sa palengke, punta mo yung kabilang tindahan. Sigurado akong galing din.
Sige po.
Good day! Today we will also tackle about the Clonorchis sinensis, which is also called the Chinese liver fluke. So this liver fluke belongs to the class Trematoda, which is under the phylum Platyhelminths. And this liver fluke infects the fish-eating mammals, including the humans. These liver flukes have two intermediate hosts and one definite host. So the two intermediate hosts are the first, which is the freshwater snail, and the second one, which is the fish. Then the definite host, where it infects, is the human. Here it goes, the first intermediate host of the Clonorchis sinensis, which is the snail. So when the eggs of the Clonorchis sinensis is inside of the snail's body, it will move out about penetrating the intestine and will go to the digestive gland, where it will help its metamorphosis. So from myricidae, it will turn into a cercerae, and this cercerae will go out of the snail's body, where it will find a freshwater environment. However, they are non-feeding, so they will eventually die if they will not find any fish within 2 to 3 days. When they will detect fish, they will attach themselves to the scales of the fish by using their suckers. So this will conclude that the second intermediate host of the Clonorchis sinensis is the fish. By 6 to 13 minutes, they will penetrate the fish muscle, and without an hour of penetration, they will form or develop a hard protective coverings called the cyst. Then this cyst is very useful to them because it will help them to cover up if the fish muscle is being consumed. So from cercerae, this larvae will turn into a metacersae. By 3 to 4 weeks, the metacersae will become very infectious to the next host. The humans are their major definite host. Infection will only occur if a human will eat a raw or undercooked food that has a metacersae in it. So the cysts are the hard coverings of a metacersae, will gradually be digested by the human gastric acid, and upon reaching the small intestine, they will gradually be lost or completely be lost. Then, by that, they will penetrate and go to the intestine, mucosa, then to the bile ducts. So, by greeting these bile ducts, they will undergo through 1 to 2 days, and by reaching the bile duct, they will start feeding on the bile secreted by the liver, and they will start growing. In just a month, an adult can start laying eggs, and in a day, they can lay eggs for about 4,000. And the average lifespan of a metacersae is about 30 years.
Hi sir,
Hello.
nagkakalat daw po kayo ng sakit na schistosomiasis.
Ano?
Totoo po ba yun?
Schistosomiasis? Yung tinatawag ding snail fever or bilharzia. Yung isa sa pinaka-infectious disease sa buong mundo. Grabe ka naman sa akin. Walang parasitic flatworms called schistosomes ang mga paninda ko. Ba't naman ako magkakalat ng sakit dito? Hindi ba sa Africa lang madalas matagpuan yun? At isa pa, sa pagkakaalam ko, ang prevention at control ng schistosomiasis ay based on a large-scale treatment of at-risk population including access to safe water, improved sanitation, hygiene education, at snail control. Kaya nga meron siyang vast medical significance kasi natututo tayo ng tamang proper hygiene at sa paglinis ng pagkain natin sa tamang paraan. Alam mo, kung ako sa'yo, huwag kang maniwala sa mga chismis na yan. Umalis ka na nga.
Sige po, una na po ako.
The life cycle of a schistosome fluke begins in a human when the female fluke lay eggs in the vessel of an intestine or urinary bladder. The egg secretes a fluid that causes the blood vessels to rupture, releasing them to the urinary bladder, then leaving the body. If they reach fresh water, they hatch into ciliated larvae called Miracidea. It will then burrow into the tissues of an aquatic snail, losing its cilia, and then develop into a sporocyst, then daughter sporocyst. Fork-tailed larvae will then be produced. When the cercariae leave the snail, they will then swim to look for a human skin. They will attach to the human skin and release tissue-degrading enzymes in order to burrow inside the skin. It will then migrate and mature in the circulatory system, eventually ending up in the intestine or urinary bladder, where sexual reproduction takes place and cycle repeats. The adult worm are 10 to 20 millimeters long. This is a picture of a human abdomen showing schistosome dermatitis caused by penetration of schistosome cercariae that are unable to complete development in humans. Sensitization to allergic substance released by cercariae results in rash and itching.
M,
M,
A, C, yeah!